Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Added Time. I'm going to be answering your questions that you kindly submitted for the video today. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, give the video a like if you're enjoying it because it helps out as well. But let's get into your questions because there's some interesting topics once again to discuss today. Firstly, question 1, Manhandled CFC asks, hypothetically, we make no signings this window. Who is your left back and centre back? So if we make no signings, starting, I'm assuming you're saying like starting players. So centre backs, probably I'd have to say Kurt Zouma and either Antonio Rudiger or Tomori. I'm just basing that on recent performances and the players I think have been the best this season. Christensen, maybe. I've talked about maybe him being sold. Left back, I think I'd just go with Marcos Alonso because that's the player Frank Lampard is picking and favouring at the moment just based off recent team selections. So that's my answer on this. But I have to say I don't think we will make no signings in those areas, especially left back. Second question, Tino asks, which player sale hurt us more in the longer run, Juan Mata or Oscar? I'm actually probably going to say I don't think selling either of those players really hurt Chelsea in the long run. I have to be honest there, which is a bit of a cop-out answer, but I have to be honest because when I actually look at that in the context of how it actually impacted Chelsea in the following seasons, I think both players, Oscar, we didn't sell him, till 2016, I think it was, under Kante. He wasn't really featuring much under Kante once we switched to a 3-4-3. Juan Mata, the whole thing with Mourinho coming back, Mourinho clearly wasn't a fan of Mata. We let him go, yes, and sure it was frustrating because he was player of the season for 2 years in a row. When you go back and watch some of those Juan Mata clips and realise how good he was during that period he was at Chelsea, he was wonderful. He was probably one of the best, most talented creative players I think you've seen at Chelsea, and I think some people underrate that because he was at us for such a short period of time and he did quite a lot. But you have to put that into context because Mata is the bigger one of the two being sold. In what happened next, Chelsea didn't win the league that season, 13-14, but we signed Cesc Fabregas and then went on to win the league the next year. And Fabregas sort of became our creative midfielder, even though he wasn't playing in the same role for a number of seasons, and we won a lot of trophies. So I can't say either player really, especially Oscar, because he never really turned out to be the player we hoped he could be, and we actually got a big fee for him. I think both players in their sense. Matt's the more hard one, I think, for fans to take because they had that affection towards him. And he's gone and had a good career at Man United. He's always been thought of well at Chelsea. But yeah, that's my answer. I actually think probably Juan Mata because of what he did for Chelsea and some of those special moments he gave. But I think actually in the end, Chelsea didn't do too badly once selling both of those players. Daniel Sinclair asks, should Kante play CDM or Gilmour? Frank Lampard gave some quotes to BT recently where he was talking about N'Golo Kante and not having the chance to play him that much because of injury this season. I feel like Kante is going to be a big part of Lampard's plans. I still firmly believe, just based on Lampard's words, if I take that from what he's saying, I think he still feels there's a lot left to give with N'Golo Kante in Chelsea's midfield. Whether he'll play as a central defensive midfielder remains to be seen. Billy Gilmour, I think, is competing with Jorginho. I don't think he's competing with N'Golo Kante. So on that question, I'm going to say Billy Gilmour, but Billy Gilmour more as a central midfielder. You know, Chelsea don't really play a CDM, a classic CDM as we used to. You know, that role has slightly changed in recent seasons. Now, whether Frank Lampard wants to keep it that way, keeping a Regista type player in that central midfield role like a Gilmour, like a Jorginho, I'm not entirely sure in the long run, and he may revert to a 4-2-3-1 where Kante plays a little bit deeper. But as we've seen this season, he's pretty much doing what Sarri did and playing Kante a little bit further forward. So I'm going to say Billy Gilmour on this one. Spiro asks, if Ruben Loftus-CHEEK is fully fit, should he be a regular starter for Chelsea next season? Absolutely, yes, he should be. He should come back into the team. I think he's going to be a brilliant player for Chelsea if he is fully fit, which is the key question. So yes. Baggy TV asks, what do you think about the 5 substitutes rule that is being discussed for the rest of the season? I think it's good. I think it's probably a good solution if Premier League does restart, and like a lot of these games, player fitness is going to be a key issue. You know, these players have been so used to being in competitive action right up to March, one of the most intense period of the seasons, and then this has been cut short. Players have never experienced something like this before. Not only players who are coming back to injury, and hopefully that can help the likes of, you know, the likes of Ruben Loftus-CHEEK, Christian Pulisic, HUDSON-ODOI, players coming back from injury, sort of get reintegrated into the first team. But also, I think it's just fair on everyone, and hopefully maybe the smaller clubs who are worrying about neutral venues, maybe it could help them with smaller squads. I think that could potentially help them as well. I think it's just probably the fairest option at the moment. Yes, I know there's some people arguing about, you know, it's killing the game, you know, it's changing the game, but it's a unique scenario. And if we are to restart football, I think there needs to be some changes just for this short period to make it work. Basil asks, if Chelsea were to sign Mertens, would you pick him up front with Tammy or as a backup striker? I don't see Frank Lampard playing two strikers together, if that's sort of what you're getting out of the question. I can't see that personally. I think Mertens would be competing with Tammy Abraham. I think he would come in, and if Olivier Giroud stays, if Batshuayi leaves, I think he will be competing as one of those strikers. It depends on how either of those strikers do. I think Frank Lampard very much bases team selections on merit. He will give players chances. And I think that would be a really exciting, I think, tussle between the two of them. I think the three of them as well. I think you can underestimate Olivier Giroud, as fans have this season. And I think between three of them, I think they'd be competing for minutes. I definitely think, I've pointed this out when I've talked about Mertens of being a good signing. And hopefully, fingers crossed, with some of the news that's come out recently, it can be a realistic thing, and Mertens might be a Chelsea player next season, which I think would be a brilliant deal. But Mertens, for me, Champions League wise, I think if Chelsea do qualify for the Champions League, I think he's going to be a big player within there. I think just in terms of some of those struggles this season, if Chelsea want to get better in the Champions League, I think having players like him on big European nights, I think could help. And as has been spoken about before, working with Tammy and sharing the load during the season, I think would be a key thing. And I think Mertens, based on his pedigree, would see himself as a player that can break into the first team and can go ahead of Tammy Abraham and Olivier Giroud. So either way, I think it's going to be a strength. And I think that just Mertens and Tammy and Giroud, I think they'll all be competing with each other. So that's my answer. So that is it for this edition of Added Time. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.